Hi, friends. I'm Katie.
And I'm Lauren, and welcome to the Okay But Did You Know Pedantic Book Club. Normally, we're a podcast where we talk about the TV and media that we love with a friend who's never seen it before. But once a quarter, we stop and discuss a book with our book club members on Patreon that has either been adapted into a series or film or is a retelling.
This quarter, our pick was nominated by our patron Erica and reread
Woo!
Little Thieves by Margaret Owen, which is a YA fantasy retelling of the Brothers Grimm fairy tale, The Goose Girl. It's the first release in a trilogy, and the final book will be released in April. I cannot wait to pick up book two. I have to have a physical copy for book two. This
Yeah.
is one of those, you know?
But it's also a case of it might be worth waiting on the third one because the third one's coming out in
Oh,
hardcover.
no. I can't buy the hardcover. I need all paperback.
So, you might have to wait.
Because this is one of those
I
ones.
think that's what I saw.
This is one of those ones we've spoken about this before. I do not annotate hardback covers, only paperback.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
We'll talk about that. We talk about the next pick.
exactly. And with that, I have to have paperback for all of this because we'll discuss how we read this.
Yeah.
And I need a paperback. But let's go ahead and do our synopsis of Little Thieves. A 13th daughter of a 13th daughter is an unlucky thing. After Vanya's mother abandoned her to the gods of death and fortune, she was raised as their daughter and given to be a maid of a nearby noble family. When she was 13, her godmothers told her she would need to choose which of them she wished to serve. But in hopes of escaping this choice and the life she's been leading, Vanya forged a plan that is 4 years in the making.
Now masquerading as the princess she used to serve, she's been stealing from the nobles and amassing enough wealth to escape this choice, and her mother's, until one night she is caught stealing something more precious than the rest. The low god Isvald curses Vanya to show the greed she feels by turning her into the precious stones that she's stolen, until she can make up for what she took, or die trying.
This curse is not her only problem, as there is the matter of the princess's betrothed, who seems to want to kill her before the wedding is completed. Vanya will have to learn to work with others and make up for everything she took, not just the money, if she hopes to lift her curse and live another day.
It's worth noting, I wrote that. That's not any blurb, and I
It's
thought it was cool to kind
beautiful.
of have. I thought it was so cool to have us kind of do an alternate thing because
Yeah.
there's only two of us, so we can't really do a kind of like three witches
Hmm.
from Macbeth kind of thing. But I thought it'd be fun to do like a little bit of back and forth. Also because it was a long synopsis, but that was by me. That was not the blurb. The
It was
blurb on the book
beautiful.
is significantly shorter.
And when we post this, you might need to send me like a good picture of your copy just because we did both annotate. I love that I always do
Yes, we
my like
did.
nice little organized tabbies at like the same length, and Lauren just goes tab. Like that would drive me
It's there.
crazy.
It's there to mark the page, so I know to go back to where I highlighted
Like
notes. That's all that these are
I
there
got my
for.
pretty
Oh yeah,
annotation
yours.
page. My highlighting on the inside in
It's
different
where.
colors.
I mean,
Wait, that's
to
not
be
a page.
fair, you're an annotator. Like you've done this before.
Oh, I love doing this.
I'm not as much of an annotator. So like to be fair, like this is the podcast is the only time that I annotate
Mm-hmm.
books. So like I just because you have like a color coding
I
system that
do.
like the different tabs mean something. In my case, I have the little thing that has the tabbies, and I go up the tabs and down the tabs. I use all the colors.
I'm an annotator through and through ever since I learned
Yep.
that that was a thing that people did. No, I do. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I have my stipulations. Hardcovers are collector's copies. They do not get
Oh yeah.
annotated or written in. They have to be a nice floppy paperback because then you can bend your spine. You can really get in there and write what you want to write in the margins. Like, I'm very
Mm-hmm.
particular about this. Like, and I don't care how people feel about that. That makes me happy.
No,
But this
that's
is
fair.
also one of those,
It's your book. You
yeah,
do what you want.
this cover I am obsessed with it. Like when I
It's
had no idea
gorgeous.
really what it was when we first discovered it. Thank you, Erica. But oh my god, when I
Yes.
finally saw the cover in person, when I got it, I'm obsessed with this. This is amazing.
And Erica has been a nice breath of some extra fun facts because she's been a fan of this author for far longer than we
Thank you
have.
so much.
So all of the art, or at least all the illustrations in the book, so not the cover, but the internal illustrations, were all done by the author Margaret Owen.
Okay, and this is one of those books too. It usually takes a book or two, like usually 2 to 3 books, I would say, from an author of their backlog for
Mm-hmm.
me to be like become obsessed. Because like I really love
Mm-hmm.
Kaylin Bayron. That's a really good
Yep.
example. Which we'll eventually probably read her with our book club too, because she has done
Yep.
some really great retellings. And
Yep.
with that, it took me, I think, about 2 to 3 of her books for me to go because I read her duology, really liked that, and that duology I was like, "All right, I enjoy this. Let me try another one." And that's when I read,
Mhm.
is it I'm Not Supposed to Die Tonight? Her, like, YA kinda like horror?
Ye I know which book you're talking about. I just don't know the
I
title.
think it's that one. I might be wrong. I'm running on very little sleep, so everybody please be patient
Yeah,
with me. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. I love you, Kaylee Bayron.
fine.
I really do.
Mhm.
But I love her. And so, but it usually takes at least about that like 2 to 3 book point to be like, this is an auto-buy author. I need to read everything. This was a one
Mhm.
book. I need everything. Like it's
Before
so good.
Before we started reading this, I'd heard quite literally nothing but good things about
Hmm.
the author as well as the book. Like Erica she'd nominated it every single
Thank
time.
you.
Like she's like, you gotta read this. And when I bought this at this little fantasy like
Hmm.
also gaming bookstore by my friend.
Ooh.
And because I was like, we were going anyway. It was like in like towards it was right after my birthday, so like I had done my bookstore crawl for my birthday. And so like when my friend was like, "Oh, do you want to go there while you're here?" I was like, "I'm never above going to a bookstore. I'll add it onto my book to my crawl. It'll just be a couple days." And she was like, "Well, then it follows the same rules. You can only buy one book." And I'm like, "I'll be able to restrain myself. It's fine." But by then I knew that this was our next pick, or it was at some point we were going to be reading it, so I knew it was something to keep an eye out for. And when I grabbed it and I went to go check out, the bookseller was like, "Have you read this before?" And I was like, "No, it's my book club's next book." She's like, "This is my favorite book. I love this author so much." Like
Hmm.
in a fantasy bookstore. Like she was like, "This is my favorite book of all time." I was like, "Cool, great. That bodes
Right?
really well."
I think I had seen when I first joined Book Talk. I joined in 2021. I'm no longer on Book
Mhm.
Talk. Like I have an account. I don't post.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I joined in 2021, and this was one of those books. Like at some point within like those like 2 years, 2021, 2022, I remember seeing the cover and people talking about it. But like that's about as much as I
Mhm.
saw of it. I didn't actually know what it
Yeah.
was about, anything about it, and like I don't see it. I don't actually see it a ton at stores. Like I don't
Yeah.
remember recalling seeing it usually,
Mhm.
but like
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it before.
picking it and then I remember when we both bought the book and both of us were like, "Oh, this is thick." Like, I didn't
Yeah.
expect that. I finished it in 3 days. Because I
It
know we both read it, we both tandem.
Yes, we both tandem read with the audiobook, and the audiobook was narrated by Saskia Marleveld.
And I think I have to read all of this series that way now because it's
I
Germanic. And so there were a lot of words in this that I would never know how to pronounce.
Yeah, there's a lot of German in here, which like literally I wrote down the part where I was like, because I was going back and forth for a while, I was like, is it German? Is it
I
Russian? I'm
was
not quite
too.
sure. And then on page 70, when she starts listing the things that are there for breakfast of soft brown pretzels and
Mhm.
pumpernickel, fans of sliced cheese, pools of spiced applesauce, and sweet mustard, I went, yep, definitely Germany.
Yeah. And like you have the case you could say though, like with some things that it could be also like near borders of different things, but like which is I do really love because I remember learning when I was in high school about like how different you would say Paris is to like where France is it France and Germany meet up, like near their
Hmm.
border, just how different everything is.
Yeah.
And it makes you
Hmm.
realize it's more by region, not by country. So that's where
Yeah.
that's why I was so lost in it. I was like, where are we? Because it can be that way a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But no, this is so oh my god. And like but no, yeah, the audiobook did help a lot, of course, with the pronunciation of a lot of things, even down to her name. Like I would say that, Vanya, but like Ragna, I would not know how to pronounce her
Yeah.
name reading it.
No. Well, like it helped a lot with a lot of the words and a lot of the names because honestly, reading them, everyone's name is Von something.
Yep.
All of them, which I guess Von, I guess that's
I think
probably
it's a
more because
title.
it's got to be a title because like to be fair, I tried to learn German
Oh, I like
once long
that.
time ago, but like I can read in that I can pronounce German words because I had to when I was learning when I was a vocal student.
Hmm.
Like some of the songs you sing are in German, so it's just easier to learn how to pronounce things properly, which that sometimes can help. And there are some things that make sense, like Rotwurst being red sausage,
Yeah.
like that makes sense, stuff like that,
It's like me in
or
French. I
or
can still pronounce most French words when I read them,
yeah.
but I'm not fluent.
Yeah, like when like they gave us the example of the nicknames of Rotfenny and Weissefenny being White Penny and Red Penny.
Hmm.
Like that's makes sense to me because I have a slight German background, but it's still much easier. And like I love that you call it tandem readings. That's what I also call it.
Hmm.
Have you seen people that are starting to be like, I'm doing this new trend of immersive reading, and it's where you listen to the audiobook and you read it with your eyes, and you're so much more immersed in the story. And I see that, and I'm like, first, maybe I've been ahead of the trends for years
Yeah.
now, but I'm like, something tells me you're not reading it at 2.5 speed like I am.
Exactly.
If you're calling it immersive reading and you're being immersed in the story, like I'll admit, I think I had this on 2 times speed
I
most of
think
the
I was
time.
also about 2 times speed.
That's which is kind of on a slower end for me. I tend to
Mm-hmm.
have things from 2.1 to 2.35 depending on the book usually.
Yeah, because I just
And like,
finished reading all of the Hunger Games again. I think I read each
yeah.
one about 2.3, 2.4.
Yeah. And I really wanted to like make sure I was getting everything. So I
Yeah.
slowed it
And all
down.
I got to say is Audible. Shut the fuck up about my speed.
Why
Just
do
saying.
they care so
I
much?
don't
Why do they
know.
care so much?
Like, I need you guys to I just need and anybody who thinks it's crazy to read at a higher speed, I
Mm-hmm.
can say without a doubt, we are neurodivergent. I
Yep.
can't read that slow. To the point, there was a point I had started off slower. I always start every audiobook off at 1.5. It's where I
Mm-hmm.
start. And then I speed up from there to figure out where I'm at. I
Mm-hmm.
had to speed it up because I kept reading the book faster than the narrator. The narrator
No,
was like,
you have to.
that's how fast I actually read. I'm a fast
Yeah.
reader. So, but no, I go between the terms tandem and hybrid because they both
Yeah,
mean
hybrid
the same
readings.
thing. I
Yeah.
just use tandem because you've been saying it more lately, and I'm like, I'm gonna use that one.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. But hybrid is also another term I think I would use. I do highly
Mm-hmm.
recommend it. Yes, it is very immersive. Like that's
Yeah.
the point. Um, and I'm happy people are finding that because that means audiobooks are going to get more listens, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe then more people will change their opinion, which is wrong. Just saying that audiobooks
Yeah.
count as reading.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that's one of those opinions, like there's scientific fact backing it. So
Yeah.
sorry, like there's scientific fact backing it, but yeah, audiobooks
Mm-hmm.
are reading. Um,
There.
but yeah, it was. I mean, I most of the notes I have written down are lines because she does such a
Same.
phenomenal job at humor.
Mm-hmm.
It is like, I mean, there are moments in this book I'm kicking it, like usually a romance makes me kick my feet. This made me kick my
Yeah.
feet and giggle. I was like, this is oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
I I mean, I don't even know where to start. Let's see. I have one, two,
Let's
three.
just start.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna go down the line. I have so many. We probably have quite. I know for a
Yeah.
fact one of our lines is the same.
Okay.
I know for a fact one of them is
Okay.
at least one.
I would like to. I'm curious what line this is.
The one I texted you about.
Oh, I don't
You don't
remember.
remember?
What that was.
I
No, my brain's not working.
if you need, but to give the idea of like how she starts off with the book of like little thieves steal gold
Mm-hmm.
and only great ones steal kingdoms, but only one goes to the gallows. This
Yeah.
book definitely dives a little bit into class consciousness,
Yeah.
which I really, really, really love in fantasy.
I appreciate how I wrote this down towards the end, I think, but
Mhm.
how aware this book is of
Yes.
so many things that get talked about, like the class consciousness about how fucking messed up child brides are,
Mm-hmm.
and like there's so much commentary that like gets written off as historically accurate
Mm-hmm.
without talking about the implications.
Yeah, I have to agree. But the line I think we both have is, I'm not angry, Death says in the seat across from me, just disappointed. You cannot get a
Yeah,
better line than that, in my opinion.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I also really love the god system in this
Yeah.
because it gave me a kind of an inkling of like how Hannah Kaner did God Killer, which I know you've read.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit,
I
it's
read the first
different in
one.
God Killer because gods are
Yeah.
created by like how people believe in them and how
Mm-hmm.
many people believe in them and how many people offer to
Yeah.
them. These gods just exist. They are who they are. But I
Yeah.
like that the gods are also snarky and
Yeah.
themselves and each have their like the god Truth. Fucking loved Truth so
Yes.
much. Like
Yes.
too fucking good.
Yep. This is. You believe this is true,
But it's not.
but it's not.
Like,
Like, what point did they just like shut up? The girl. Oh, what was her name?
oh, I don't
The
remember
von
her
Herschel.
name.
What was her name? Irma.
Irma. Yeah, yeah,
Ermengarde.
yeah.
Ermengarde. Like they just like shut her up because like nothing truthful was coming out of her mouth. They're like, yeah, she's not useful anymore.
It was so good.
Like, because that was one of Erica's questions, like what we think about the mythology and like use of the low gods and everything. And like I think it's a really good way to, because it's almost a combination of like what we see with like a lot of like different other kinds of pantheon
Yes.
religions, where there are different gods for different things, and it's a case of if you choose to devote your life to them or not, that's like you pick one or the other or none, whatever your decision is. But there were also inklings of other kinds of religions strewn about in there also, which I found really interesting because if I can find one of my lines. So there was one thing from under the second tale in the first part, because the
Yes.
book is split up into 3 parts among 7 tales. I think like they kind of use like those as different ways to separate the story. And when she was trying to kind of spend Adelbrecht's money as much as possible, then she's trying to find different people. It was one person said, no, since the wedding's on a Sunday, he miserably declines as well. He won't be able to start baking until after sundown Saturday. So I was like, Jewish?
Oh, see, I didn't pick up on that, but I'm not Jewish, so.
Yeah, so there's inklings of different kinds of, I think it's almost like a combination of the mythologies, but it's like, it's the fact of they are people that it's like the whole point of a Greek mythology is it shows the flawedness of your deities. They are not perfect. Deities should not be perfect.
No.
They represent something, but that's it. In the fact of like that death and fortune, and I just kind of kept writing these notes of like, I love that we just have death and fortune as cottagecore lesbians. It's a great time.
It's the best.
It's like fantastic. And like, I know that this is not how they look at all, but still in my mind, I really couldn't get out of my head death being Aubrey Plaza and fortune being Catherine Hahn. That was just where my head went.
Yeah, because I think fortune
Because
is a black woman.
is black woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very well aware that's an incorrect, but that's just kind of where my mind went before it was just.
But you're like, you're not saying that, that's.
I'm not saying that's totally what it is. No, I'm saying that's what my mind conjured before any kind of physical description was.
Yeah, which I really
was
enjoyed that the author did that though, by including a diverse character, by doing so in a very respectful way, because it is Germanic. Like there are people of color everywhere. But that's one of those things is like, you want your book to be diverse. You don't want to, you really don't want to keep that, like not have that. And so I thought it was done really, really well by doing that. Cause it's this powerful goddess.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's snarky. And I love her.
She is snarky. Because like between the two of them, like they clearly, they admit like they made a mistake by trying to make Vanya serve them rather than be anything other than their daughter.
Because they always try to help her throughout the book.
Yeah.
Which is really, really great. And I really, and at the end, they do like tell her, like, we are your mothers. We just got to get better at what we're doing because they're gods. They're not used to being mothers.
Exactly. And parents make mistakes.
And it was oh man. There's so much in this book that just does so much for me. Yeah. I loved the lines too. It could be worse. At least they're not throwing knives at each other. No one throw knives at each other. At least 3 orphans sag with disappointment. The violence in this book is done so well.
It is. That same section. You want to see a knife? It turns out the keys to child's hearts are weapons and card games.
Like, oh man. And there's so many amazing characters. So of course we have Vanya.
Yes.
And we have oh god, what is her name?
Giselle.
Yeah, that's the one she took her place. The actual princess. Yes. She takes her place. But then you have Ragna and you have Jonisa, and like Emmerich ended up being so much better than I realized. I was like, okay, he's like he's like the cop. But then we get to this point, well, still a gawky academic, but with better posture and at least 5 knives on him that I can see. And I just wrote, Emmerich is my kind of man.
Yeah. I called him being a love interest from the very first time he's introduced.
Too. Like I called that, but I didn't realize he'd be such a badass.
Well, okay, so at first, literally page 35 is when he introduces himself. I shoot your prefect Emmerich Conrad at your service. I wrote love interest, and then to be fair, because I wasn't sure yet, I also did the same thing when Ragnar was introduced. I was like, love interest also maybe.
That went a different route than I expected.
Here's the thing is I knew that I knew that there was a sapphic romance involved because I had seen Erica's questions before I read the book.
Okay.
She wasn't specific, but she did ask, how do we feel about the representation as well, the ace rep and the sapphic romance?
The ace rep was done really well. Because like, isn't like she has this line of like, I don't know what to do with it. What's the German word she used? What first? Something like that.
I wrote down the entire line.
Good. You have it. I don't think I have that one written.
No, I did. This is the part where I must admit that I have no idea what to do with someone's personal Rotwurst. I mean, I've had plenty of gossipy details and dirty jokes, and Jonisa explained the mechanics when I was of the proper age. I would even say there's some appeal in the idea, at least with the right person. But I've had different priorities even longer than I've had an interest in. Well, Rotwurst. And those priorities come first.
Which that's a really good way of explaining it. Because I have ace friends, and I would say that's how they also explain it. Like, and it's a really good way of learning about that if you aren't of that.
Yeah.
But then you have Ragna.
Ragna is chaos and literally chaos incarnate. She's the daughter of Icefall, the god of the woods.
Forest,
the forest, and like she's there just kind of to keep an eye on Vanya, and she shapeshifts and she doesn't give a shit, and I fucking love
I
her.
have the line written down. It's my job to look after Vanya, even though she is mean. If you hurt her, I will turn myself into a bear and kill you. That's all. Goodbye. And then you just have moment after moment with her that you're just like every time, I'm actually in the book and I'm really enjoying Vanya and I'm enjoying Emmerich and I'm enjoying so many different aspects. But then every time Ragnar comes back in, I'm like, yes, what do we have now? What is she gonna do now? Because
Well,
she's always like this.
I have a line towards the very, like literally towards the very end. This is the last thing I have written down. Ragna climbs onto an armchair herself, this time perching on the sturdy back. I'm pretty sure she knows how chairs work by now and is just choosing to ignore it.
I have one other line written down with her, which kind of goes
Uh huh.
into just it's the humor aspect that I think we really enjoyed out of this book
Mm-hmm.
too. Is she asks
Yeah.
Joniza and Vanya, "What do I do if I like a human person?" Joniza and I
Mm-hmm.
trade wide-eyed looks. I open my mouth and she immediately claps a hand over it. Absolutely not. I wouldn't let you give relationship advice to my arch nemesis. And she goes, "You have an arch nemesis?" I garble through my
I have that.
fingers.
I have that written down with toward the very end of it is, and then you can put your mouth wherever they want you to.
I mean, that is top tier comedy in a fantasy book.
Mm-hmm. But it's to the detail that she put in the
I
garbled pronunciation. I would like everything about this is perfect.
It's so perfect. And I only have so much written down because if I
Yeah.
didn't just try and pick and choose the lines, the whole
Mm-hmm.
book would be here. Because even down to how well the curse is, because Vanya steals, she's a thief, she's the Fenevist, even down to that, the curse is that these jewels keep growing into her skin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is so fucking cool.
It's such a cool way to show the greed, and also just to show her, like, I mean, it makes sense that it shows how she's learning what
Mm-hmm.
exactly does help to at least keep the curse at bay is when she does truly selfless acts. It's
Yep.
not just giving back the money, it's not just giving back the life, it's giving back everything, all the selfishness and all the selfishness that she's taken
Mm-hmm.
and done in the last year. And one thing I really love, because I wrote down towards the very beginning when I realized that the pearls were magic, I was like, I like that because this is the assumption, obviously, for especially given the original fairy tale, the assumption is that she had the pearls, like magicked to steal, Giselle's face, and now something looks different. Like now Giselle looks different, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like that's always the assumption that the thief is the one who started this from the very beginning, and the fact that it was her mother that created the pearls with the enchantment to make Giselle more desirable, but
Mm-hmm.
then it turned anyone who wore them into that specific visage. That was such a clever switch or swap, whatever, such a clever way to turn that trope on its head of the stolen identity, that Vanya didn't do everything from the beginning. She took advantage of them, but she didn't instigate that. Like she wasn't the one who created the enchantment or purchased the enchantment. She was just using other people's misguided attempts
It brought in
to better her
the
life.
yeah, and it brought in the representation that a lot of people deal with their own parents, especially mothers, especially
Yeah.
people from our day and age. Like I feel like moms are starting to get a
Yes.
little bit better about it for the most part. Like with my children,
Mm-hmm.
you eat which I keep mostly healthy foods in the house. What I like mostly fruits,
Yeah.
vegetables. And when I talk to my kids about food, because there is some representation here of like not Vanya.
Giselle.
Giselle, thank you. I don't have her name actually written in front of me, and that's my problem. I wrote down,
Mm-hmm.
Emmerich, and I wrote down Ragnar, and I wrote down Vanya, and I wrote down Joniza, but I completely
Mm-hmm.
forgot to write down Giselle, and that's on me.
That's fine.
But that is representation for kids who have dealt with food insecurity with their own parents by them being like,
Yeah.
you need to lose weight, you need to eat like this, because like the entire when Giselle's mother does show up, she just keeps harping on her about her
Yeah.
body and about how she's eating. And while I didn't really deal with that, I had a different type of food insecurity that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
It did still kind of come close to heart because I had a lot of friends who dealt with that. Like I had
Yeah.
friends who
Mm-hmm.
their moms would lock the pantry
Yeah.
and and I say healthy food, we have cookies, we have
Yeah.
juice, we have those things in the house too. Everything in
Well,
moderation.
yeah, exactly. It's a healthy mindset to not, you don't demonize, because food is neutral. Like food
Exactly.
is like, there's food that you should have more of because it's nutritionally
Hmm.
better for you, but food has no moral value.
Like I always offer everything to my kids, but I do tend to offer fruits and vegetables first. But now that my daughter's getting older, I like when we talk about nutrition because we talk about nutrition. She'll
Mm-hmm.
that they have this habit. Like sometimes she'll ask for like cake for breakfast, and I'm like, I understand that you want cake, and sometimes we have pastries, but as that is not what we have in the house right now. let's try and have something with some healthy carbs, some healthy protein. The carbs, you need the carbs for your brain to function, for your schoolwork. The protein's going to
Yeah.
help your muscles grow. Like, that's how I explain it to my children. We want to make these
Mm-hmm.
choices so that we're fueling our bodies for what they need during the day, which
Yeah.
has worked, because today, while we were out, when we go to grocery shopping, Aldi has pre-made salads with a fork already in it. And when I'm running a lot of errands, my daughter loves to pick out a salad so that she can make her salad in the back seat, because we live 30 minutes away from our grocery store. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
it gives her a chance to eat something. And they were really
Yeah.
cute today. They're sitting there eating their salads because my son wanted one too. My 4-year-old wanted a salad. And
Mm-hmm.
she's sitting there eating it. And she's like, this is really good. And I'm really happy that it's got added protein with the ham. She's seeing the value of the nutrients.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is a
Yeah.
really, but then we still had cookies afterwards. Like,
No, that's a good way to go about it.
so seeing that representation did make me happy, because I know that if I don't make sure I provide this information about food and nutrition to my kids, and if I do it this
Mm-hmm.
way, this will harm them. So I did really
Yeah.
enjoy that aspect as a mother, reading that representation is there for people who do go through that, because reading
Mm-hmm.
representation that you don't see every day helps heal you in a way, which I'll have a whole nother
It
rant about
does.
that, about other things within this
Mm-hmm.
book that made me cry, because this book made me
Mm-hmm.
cry.
Oh.
Like, it's so fun. It's so funny. It's so wonderful. But I came from a different type of family.
Yeah.
I dealt with a lot of food and, like I said, food insecurity in other ways. But I have dealt with abuse in my past, and
Mm-hmm.
I dealt. I wrote it in a better way. Hold on, before I get too emotional, let me read, like,
Yeah.
actually read what I wrote before I get into, like, an emotional thing. But I had no idea what I was getting myself into reading this book, but it will stick with me forever. I related to Vanya a lot, and I won't go into too much detail, but I recommend this book for anyone who is looking for, who has found their family after their own have let them down. I laughed, I cried, I fell in love. Thank you, Margaret Owen, for writing such a beautiful story that has not only entertained, but has also made me feel seen, because Vanya throughout the entire book is struggling with anybody thinking that she's a good person, or anybody wanting to be in her
Mm-hmm.
life, thinking that she
Yeah.
deserves, like, to the point she's self-deprecating and constantly saying she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
deserve love, she doesn't deserve to feel wanted, she doesn't deserve anything good that happens to her, because of how Giselle's parents treated her and because her own mother gave her up.
Yep.
And it hit hard for me, because I've dealt with
Mm-hmm.
some of those issues myself. And so,
Yeah.
like, this book ended up so much more than I ever
Mm-hmm.
expected it to be, because it's not just a
Yeah.
wonderful work of art with the humor and the wonderful, just like the way she describes things. Like,
Yep.
it truly is such a beautiful book, and it's got great jokes, but at the same time, it's got so much representation wrapped in one,
Mm-hmm.
that it's a book that's good for everybody.
Yeah. And it's like for how much is in the world, and like we can see a lot of the normalization that again we do just traditionally do not see with high fantasy that is in a more historical setting,
Mhm.
because a lot of the authors, and I'm just a lot of the male authors, have a tendency to put in certain things and call it historical accuracy, but like the normalization of different sexualities, of different representations, down to the point of when Van Vanya is reflecting on Giselle preferring women, and she says, but if Giselle prefers girls, the candidate pool would be severely limited, leaving only the few noble women able to conceive with her, to the point where it's
Mhm.
so normalized for there to be trans women in the nobility.
It's
Like,
amazing.
that's, you can do it in a way that, like, and again, for the people that yell about, there need to be historical accuracy in fantasy, fuck your historical accuracy. It's a fantasy
But
novel.
also with that, people like trans people and people like you and I have always existed. We've
We've always been around.
always existed. We're just written out of
Mm-hmm.
history a lot of the time,
Yeah.
because of white supremacy is the best way for me to say that one. I'm sorry. It's due to
Yeah.
white
Mm-hmm.
supremacy,
Oh
because
yeah.
white supremacy also goes into nationalism as well as things with religion. It truly does.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's a fact. I'm sorry. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever we see the thing, because, like, that's where the joke of they were roommates comes in.
Yep.
Historically, we've always, which is why I wrote the historical fantasy, not
Mm-hmm.
fantasy, the historical paranormal book, that story that I
Yep.
did. We've always
Yep.
fucking existed, and we're not going anywhere.
Nope.
So I'm with you on that one. I really appreciate this in that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you really do go into the historical aspect with this too, we go down to, like, the marriage contract. It's stated
Yes.
in it that they weren't to consummate the marriage until she was a certain age. So it still showed the child bride side of it, but I
Yes.
appreciated Margaret for adding that in because
Mm-hmm.
historically that was not the case in
No,
the
historically,
slightest.
they basically as soon as you were basically physically able, that was deemed old enough to consummate, essentially, which is not great historically.
Mhm.
And I mean, but it works. It's the fact of it. They bring awareness to how fucking weird it is. But additionally, that plays further into the plot of what happens with the laws of inheritance, because especially with the way the marriage works, with her being underage when they get married, that's the whole point of how he can get her estate and get her
Yeah.
inheritance and get the title that she could inherit, because the way that it works when you marry someone of that age in this world, not only does she become his heir, he becomes hers.
Mhm.
Where if she was an adult, I don't think that was the part that I was trying to follow as best I could. But if she was an
Yeah.
adult, that wouldn't necessarily have been the case.
It was strictly because she was the age that she was. Because
That he became eligible to inherit everything by
yeah,
marrying her.
exactly. And it was only due to her age. But that was also weird because then they added in the whole thing of like he was also trying to kill her. So that's where I
Yes.
got confused of like, okay, but apparently it's like as long as that contract is signed, even if she
Yep.
dies between the time of signing the contract and the actual nuptials, he still gets
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yep.
And I mean, if you need a character to hate,
I mean, it comes down to the
oh,
fact that the first time he's introduced, I didn't write down his entire name, but the note that I wrote down next to his first full name is, wow, his whole name is a paragraph.
I mean, that's very German.
It's very
It's
German, but
very
it's also
German.
it's very nobility.
It
He's
so
Adelbrecht
much.
von Reisenbach. Like it's very Daenerys Stormborn, first of her name, Queen of the Andals, and the First Men, 5 million titles.
Oh man, but it just there's so much in this. And but it's
There's
not
is
but it doesn't take forever to read because it's so good you can't put it
No, it
down.
doesn't.
Cuz I really
And this is just the first in a trilogy.
I
Like it's like
know what
this
happens next.
a new adventure, which based off of the cover is I can't tell. I mean, obviously it's a god. There's a god because obviously the covers are important for
Yes,
the
cuz
gods that are behind our main
this shows
characters
death and fortune behind her. But I think isn't the
as well, and Isvald.
in Icewald. Yeah, thank you. I was just saying that too. Oh, I wish we had Ragna. Where's Ragna?
No, the cover. So yeah, the cover. No, there's no Ragnar on the cover. Um, but from what we can tell of the Painted Devils, which is the book 2 cover, it's obviously Emmerich and Vanya, and then I'm gonna assume that's Fortune, but I don't really know.
Ooh, so
We
we won't know
we
till we
wouldn't
read
know
it.
what exactly.
Which, like, we may have to talk about that book, even if it's not a book club book, just because we're like, we were really
Possibly.
obsessed with this.
Yeah.
I did love the line too, Joniza. Like, I love her because, like, she
Mm-hmm.
is so forgiving,
Yes.
and I took her because she is older than, of course,
Yeah.
Vanya and
Yes.
Giselle. And while Death and Fortune are very much like they're Vanya's godmothers and more so her mothers, they took her in
Mm-hmm.
because what her
Yeah.
birth mother did. Joniza to me is truly her motherly figure, like actually in her
Yes.
life. Because I
Mm-hmm.
did love the line. It has nothing to do with that, but it's just when Joniza goes, if not being satisfied by a man was grounds for a murder charge, you'd have a lot more suspects. Like she
I
is
love
amazing.
I love her so much because especially I love that you said that she's so forgiving because I think especially for Vanya, that's what she needed
Mhm.
is someone who is willing to tell her you messed up. Like
Yep.
I was not okay for a very long time, but still forgives her anyway. Like
Like
is willing
has
to
that
point
love
out
for her.
that there's a love, like there's a hurt, but the love supersedes the hurt.
And, like, that also shows how hurt Vanya truly is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she is that hurt that even though she did have people in her lives because, like, everything that happened between her and Giselle, like, yes, that hurt her even more. And,
Yeah.
like, that whole tale, like, oh, holy shit, that's so fucked up. And, like, her and, like, and yet she did have to, like, get forgiveness from Giselle as well. But, like,
Yeah.
Janiza was always there.
Mm-hmm.
Always there. And she always loved her and she always helped take care of her. And
Yeah.
so getting that forgiveness, but also like it helped her heal, I think, in a sense, to be
Oh yeah.
forgiven by someone that she didn't realize actually loved her.
Mm-hmm.
And just, God, there's so many layers to this damn book. There's so many
It's
layers.
it's just so beautifully crafted is the best way I can phrase it. It's there's just like we said, keep saying there's humor, there's heart,
There's romance, but
a
like
hi-
also an
there's
ace romance.
there's so much representation. There's the romance, there's heist stuff involved,
Right?
like constantly climbing up and down turrets. Like
And
I saw one of my original lines again. It's about Adelbrecht, but it just makes me laugh. 'Cause it's from page 11, it's from the very beginning. He's been instigating skirmishes like your garden variety. Invade a kingdom because Poppy didn't love me, best noble. All while I wait in his castle.
yeah, that explains a lot of men if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And Emmerich
But
was
like
a nice surprise too with his character.
he was, because like he could have so easily been like I mean, because to be fair, he fooled all of us with
Mm-hmm.
his initial fumbling junior prefect kind of thing, and it turns out, oh no, he actually knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah, he does. I like Emmerich.
Like I liked a man in a book.
He's not straight coded.
This is true. He's not straight coded. Adelbrecht can go die in a hole, which to be fair, he did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is not a spoiler free podcast from the especially enough of the books.
Well, it's a book club. Everybody should have read this by now.
This is true, but like literally, like the fact that because Adelbrecht, like we see him, like it's again, it's an evolution. Because something else that Erica asked us is, how do you feel about the antagonist villain of this book? Because I personally found him scary.
I wouldn't say
Like,
scary. I thought he was he's an asshole.
He's an asshole. He's a villain, all like in the same vein as Gaston. Of he's a scary villain because he's very realistic. He is that kind of greed, that kind of just manipulativeness, and the fact of we see him like that starting with that first inclination of him, of this man that's just out to start wars because daddy didn't love me, you know. But through it to the point where at one point, while Vanya is dressed as the maid, so not as Giselle, one of the
Martha,
other
right?
maids,
Martha.
Marta, yeah, one of the other maids tells her, "Don't be caught in the hallways by yourself."
Oh, that one got me.
Like, I just wrote, "Oh, yeah, whatever you do, don't let him catch you alone." I wrote, "Fuck this guy." But there was one part earlier
because that also happened when she first met him. Like when he actually originally came to like
he had
offer his hand or like ask about Giselle, Janiza saved her.
Yes. There's one part earlier in the book that I can't find my exact note, but it was something about Adelbrecht being an asshole, and I don't know who he is, but I hate him.
I'm trying to find. Should have written it down.
Oh, here it is. No, the danger of the golden wolf is that he takes what he wants. I don't know who he is, but I hate him.
Right, like oh my god. He's a very good villain. He is a very good villain, but he mirrors a lot of white men we see in power, and I really appreciated that.
That's exactly who he's designed to be. He's designed to be the powers that be.
And oof, I'm feeling so many emotions. Like it's so many emotions.
We've been waiting to talk about this book for a while because I think we both finished this a couple of weeks ago.
It's been finished this. No, I read this before 2025 hit. It's not in my January wrap up, I don't think. Is it? Did I read it in January?
I'm checking mine.
Fuck, I don't remember.
Actually, yeah. No, I read it in January.
Did I read it in January? I read 16 books in January. So
you were busy.
I was disassociating.
I finished this. It took me so here's the thing. So it did take me 13 days to read it, not because I was not enjoying it, but because I was coming
January,
off of
you're right,
reading.
sorry.
I was coming off of a reading slump, and I was trying to just pace myself. So I read it between January 11th and January 24th.
I did not pace myself.
But I have an item in my spreadsheet that now tells me how many days it took me to read a book. It subtracts the date finished from the date started.
Oh, okay. Now your spreadsheet sounds cooler than mine. Mine has a map for all the nationalities that I read.
That is very cool. That's something I can't do because Notion doesn't do that kind of chart.
Oh, mine's on Google. Okay, I can't find it, but it's okay. But Emmerich, I really I like at first I was like, okay, he's the scholarly type dude. I like that. Because like I like a intelligent man. But what really got me and made me really fall in love with him was just how much he did care for Vanya. But I had the one line I wrote down that he said was, "You did it," he said wonderingly. You beautiful terror, you did it. And I just wrote down, it's actually wrote it in my annotations. I also would like to be called a beautiful terror. Like that is such a good line.
That's a very good line.
It's so romantic, but also accurate because it's Vanya.
Exactly.
Like And their romance was really good. Like it was a
It
good
was.
romance. Like they actually it was a budding friendship along with the romance because she was very confused, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that showed for a lot of people what happens for them mentally, trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out like what's expected of them as a human from
Mm-hmm.
society and how they should be in
Yeah.
a relationship and how they actually truly are. And they're like, I can just have like I don't have to have a full physical relationship because I know we have the
Yeah.
kissing, but
Mm-hmm.
that's where it ends for the most part for
Yeah.
the two of them in book one. I don't know. We
In
don't know
book,
about
yeah,
book
this is
two
true.
because this is also. I feel like I don't know if she'll go into the representation, but like ace does not mean you never have sex. It just
No,
means
I would put
you
them
don't
both.
as much.
Yeah, I would say they're both definitely on the demisexual
Yeah.
end of things. At least towards the end, that's how it feels. Um, but I really appreciated again how her response to when he like before he gives her the full explanation
Hmm.
of like why he like couldn't like pretend to basically have sex with her in the closet like was because he doesn't have those feelings like he just
Hmm.
never has, and her instinct is to be reminded that like that she thinks that it's because she's not the beauty with the pearls. It's like it's
Yep.
because it was her without it, and she feels like it's a reminder of how she feels. But I'm trying to find a note of mine
I've felt that
that
way
was
before in
like
my life.
really, yeah. Like I feel like for a lot of people, like when someone doesn't
Yeah.
want you the way that you want them to, you feel like it's a personal thing. I mean, sometimes it
Well,
is, but you feel
when
like
you're
it's because
rejected
there's something it hurts.
when you're rejected constantly by the people that are supposed to care for you and love for you, when they
Hmm.
then are rejected again and again by people who aren't entirely
Hmm.
meant to love you, like that you don't think are meant to actually like
Yeah.
you don't fully expect everyone to reject you because when you're
Hmm.
used to being rejected constantly, some people don't reject you and you don't know how to
Yeah.
react to that and you get love bombed
Hmm.
and you don't know how to get through that because you're so used to
Yeah.
not being treated well. So when it happens again by someone you don't expect to do it, it hurts a
Hmm.
lot.
Yeah.
And that's part of the abuse thing is like you don't know how to feel because you've never been treated like you were loved.
Yeah.
So it's
The
damn
note that I was
fuck.
the note that I, the note that I was looking for is from earlier on. It's I've refined a theory about desire. In the world I knew, there were three reasons a person would be wanted: for profit, pleasure, or power. If you could satisfy only one, they used you. Two, they saw you. Three, they served you.
Hmm.
And like it's something that
Margaret Owen, what happened?
unfortunately
Like, who hurt you?
the
Who hurt you?
books, society probably.
Right? Like reading this book, it really is like, are you okay?
Yeah,
Please tell me you've healed.
I know. So I mean, I'm looking at Erica's questions. We've more or less answered
Oh.
all of them. She like because to be fair, like she gave us like some there were some pretty like, it was like your favorite characters and what do you think about the
Hmm.
mythology and stuff like that, which we've all talked about. We love all the characters. I think
Yeah.
Ragnar probably is my favorite.
I think
How
I
familiar
just
were you?
relate to Vanya so much.
No, that's fair. So she did ask how familiar were we with the Goose Girl before reading. I was not at all. I
Oh, I
did
still
read it,
forgot
but
to
I
read
was.
it.
It's honestly basically the basis of the Goose Girl is a princess is going to her betrothed and with a maid, and while they're stopping, and the princess is not super nice, and they keep stopping, and the maid's like, I'm not going to do things for you, like you could do it yourself, you've got working hands, go get the water yourself. And as they get closer to where the betrothed is, the maid takes the
Oh,
princess's horse and pretends to be the princess,
okay.
and so the princess has to be the maid, and then there's something to do with geese. I don't
So
remember
it's
exactly.
still stolen identity.
Stolen identity, but ultimately it's the princess wins out in the end.
I
But yes,
meant to look it up and read it because that's
it's fair.
public domain now. I think, isn't it? Is it
Hmm.
public domain now?
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah,
But then the inauguration happened.
yeah, no, that's fair.
And I kind of went off the deep end and forgot to do it.
That's okay.
As I said, I read 16 books in the month of January.
Yeah. Uh, she also asked, "Will we consider going on and finishing this trilogy in the future?" I don't know. What do you
What
think?
do you think? As we're sitting here trying to decide when does the paperback for book 3 come out so I can write in it.
So I think we like this one.
Just a
But
little bit.
she did also alert me that there is a quiz written by the author of what character you are. So
I think I
I'll
know
be
who I'll
channeling.
get.
You know what? I'll admit I have taken this already. I know my answers. I wanted to test it.
So I click
So
this link.
Yes.
Okay, I
You put
entered.
your name. There's 14 questions. So do you want to like
Okay.
switch off reading the question and the answer?
Sure. Okay. So what
So
I'm
do you
at
want to start?
I'm asking the question.
Yes.
Okay. So number 1 is what role would you play in a fairy tale?
And your options are the wise fool, the powerful ruler, the false bride, the lost princess, the cruel stepsister, or the mysterious sorceress.
Mm, I'm going to
I
go
think I would end up being the false bride, honestly.
I am feeling mysterious sorceress.
Okay.
All right.
What is your star sign? And this
Oh,
is then just a list of star
yeah,
signs.
I'm
Uh
Capricorn.
I'm a Scorpio.
All right.
All right.
Oh, what?
Interesting question.
What star sign do you wish you were? Which is very funny because the last, for me, the last one is Virgo, but in parentheses says, but why though?
Mine also says that.
See,
I don't
I align with Capricorn. I know I'm a
mhm.
Capricorn. I don't want to be anything else. Like,
Like I for me, I would say I would like to be a Pisces in that they tend to have an easier like a nicer like brain work reputation when it comes to water signs.
yeah, like I'm a Pisces moon, so I
Mhm.
already have that a little bit because I'm a Pisces moon.
I think I ought.
I'm a witch, guys. I'm sorry, but no. But my sun sign is Capricorn. I don't want to be anything else. I'm proud to be a
Yeah.
Capricorn.
Mhm.
Everybody's I'm the Capricorn of like the what is it I told you guys, because no one in our friend group but me has a different sign. You guys are all born around the same time, but y'all collected
We're
me.
all yeah.
So I'm sticking with my tried and true. I am a
Mhm.
Capricorn through and through.
There you go. All right, someone has something you want. How do you get it from them? And then
Okay, so offer a trade. Just take it from them. Most people won't stop you. Ask nicely. Either deny what I want completely or Kool Aid man my way to it. No middle ground. Fool them into giving it to me. Blackmail them. Present a well researched argument.
I think we know which one I am. That's
So,
the well researched argument.
see, and
I do
that's
like the Kool Aid Man option though.
the well researched argument feels very Capricorn since we said that, but like I am more so of the fool them into giving it to me.
Mm.
Oh no, I don't need that. No,
Read the
I
question.
don't wanna.
Read it.
What is your greatest fear?
Your options are abandonment, powerlessness. I can read. Trusting the wrong person. Horses, they bite things for no reason. Wasting your potential, irrelevance, or losing the people you love.
I mean, I don't need therapy, damn it.
I'm gonna go with wasting your potential. Actually, no, irrelevance.
I'm stuck between abandonment and losing the people you love, but for me,
Horses
abandonment,
do bite
they do. I grew up next to horses. Keep your hand flat. I'm
things.
I'm showing myself here. I'm putting abandonment.
Okay.
Oh, I'm hurt.
You've been given $1 billion. What do you do with it?
Hide it, tell no one, and make enormous anonymous donations whenever you feel like it. Set up set up set up programs to support emerging artists. Well, pay people to do that. Also, a new wardrobe every year. God no. Become a mega influencer and start your own MLM. Invest enough to live comfortably, then divide the rest between charity and systemic reform. You cannot conceive $1 billion, panic and throw it into the sea. No. Buy enough politicians to make you untouchable. Commission a statue of yourself to be erected outside of your nemesis home. That's funny.
Mm, I'm invested enough to live comfortably, then
Same.
divide the rest.
That's the same. I just want to live comfortably, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I get Thrift Books is telling me to go buy A Dragon's Bride. That's funny.
Mm.
Who's reading? It's me. My turn.
You're reading the question.
If you had to take an elective class, you'd pick
Drama, zoology, mock trial, music theory, photography, political science, or weight training. I was a drama kid. That's me.
I already dabble in photography, so I'm going that way.
Yeah. What is your biggest flaw?
Fuck, man. I didn't need therapy tonight. People say my jokes go too far, but they just don't get my humor. I can't stay out of other people's business. I will never be satisfied with what I have. I believe the best of everyone, even when it can lead to getting hurt. I would rather do worse on my own than rely on anyone else. I expect the people I employ to make sacrifices I won't, and I know I'm usually right, so I jump to conclusions.
People say my jokes go too far.
Yeah,
I'm funny.
you are. I'm showing so much of my personal self. I believe the best of everyone, even when it can lead to getting me hurt. God damn it. Where can we find you at a party? Not there. Sorry.
Home.
Right?
In the corner, convincing strangers to join your MLM.
Why all the MLM?
I have no clue. Pretending to be part of a conversation, but secretly eavesdropping on the MLM conversation, getting ready to snitch. The roof. Hiding in the kitchen, making 1 million cheese plates to avoid socializing. Flirting with your arch nemesis. Smoking in the backyard and quietly talking shit about the host. Telling a story in the living room loudly and bowling over anyone else who tries to speak.
I would be hiding in the kitchen.
I would be pretending to be part of a conversation, but secretly eavesdropping.
And then you'd come tell me everything in the kitchen.
That's what I do. All right. Who knows you best?
My mother, my partner in crime, my family, my mentor, my ex-best friend, me, and absolutely no one else. I let everyone think they know me best.
Like, if we want to go really deep into the psychology of things,
right? Like, this is
technically speaking.
Who wrote this?
Technically speaking, no one knows you better than yourself.
I was going to go the
it's
same
like, oh, they know me
route.
better than I know myself. No one knows you better than you know yourself because, quite frankly, no matter how much of your true self you show everyone or anybody, they will always have not. They will always not take like the version of yourself that you show. They take the version of self that you show through their own interpretation. So I'm saying me and no one else just because we're gonna go real psychology here.
Well, I'm going with that too because I read something recently that said, especially when it comes to like trauma, that the people who have traumatized you don't see the real you. They see your trauma reaction to them.
Yeah.
Because if someone has traumatized you, it takes therapy, time, and conversation, usually with that person, to heal from that and be able to be your true self with somebody. God, I didn't need us to have a therapy session tonight with a book and a quiz, okay?
Just saying.
Is it bedtime yet? Okay.
Almost. We're almost there.
Ooh.
Read the next question.
What uncomfortable truth do you believe?
Few people are wholly good or bad, but there are some truly irredeemably evil people in the world. There are predators in the world, and there are prey.
Ooh.
It's better to compromise and survive than die on a hill. A well-trained ruling class is necessary in a healthy society to make informed decisions. It is unnatural and damaging for the weak to hold power. People should not be punished for being naturally more talented. People are only wanted if they bring others power, pleasure, or profit. I am going with it's unnatural and damaging for the weak to hold power. Because quite frankly, I'm taking that in the interpretation of those who take power, they are the weakest among us. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
Oh. Like those who seek out power do so because they're deficient in something else. That's how I take it.
Do I oh fuck. I hate to be that person, but I kind of still have some trauma here because I do kind of agree with the whole point with Vanya that people are only wanted if they bring others power, pleasure, or profit. But then I'm also stuck with few people are wholly good or bad, but there are some truly irredeemably evil people in the world. I think I'm going to go with the second because that one makes more sense. The other one is a trauma response. Like the other one is a trauma response. It's Friday night. Where are you?
At home, catching up on a good book or show, scamming rich kids into buying me drinks. The private room in the most expensive club in town. Researching my thesis. Roaming the streets. No matter where I am, it's the center of attention. Playing a set at the local theater. At home, catching up on a good book or show.
At home?
Yeah, right. Home. What would you change about yourself? More therapy, sorry.
Fuck me. My profound trust issues. I wish I could understand the other people better. I wish I could cut off toxic people easily. Nothing, I'm flawless and everyone else needs to get on my level. I wish I was less easily flustered. I wish it was easier for me to stand up for the right thing. I wish I was even stronger.
I wish I could cut off toxic people more easily.
My profound trust issues.
And finally,
welcome to our therapy session.
Yeah. You're about to cause problems on purpose. What song is playing over the montage?
Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. In the Hall of the Mountain King from Peer Gynt. Don't Stop Me Now, Queen. Rolling in the Deep, Adele. Castle by Halsey. O Fortuna from Carmina Burana. And Truth Hurts by Lizzo.
Don't Stop Me Now.
Castle by Halsey. Now that album, oh my god. Okay, you ready?
Oh god. Did I get the same one as last
time?
Oh,
that's not
I got
a surprise.
I got a different answer than last time.
Did you?
Yeah.
Ooh.
What'd you get? But yeah, so the first time that I took this, I got Ragna. This time I got Vanya.
Interesting. We should all know my answer. I got Vanya.
Yeah.
The thing it says though, it says Vanya Schmidt, a horrible girl. Congratulations, you're a horrible gremlin. You live to scam and have never been anything wrong in your entire life. You're great at reading people and making the most at every opportunity, but there's a reason you have these skills. After all, you can't count on anyone but yourself. You might as well grift what you can from everyone else. Great description.
Well, okay then.
All right. So, I mean, that's not how I took my own answers, but thank you.
I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. I believe we both gave this 5 stars.
Oh, yeah. I'm absolutely obsessed with this book, this world. I will be rereading this probably again and again in the coming years. Like, if there's special editions out there, where are they? Just saying.
They probably exist.
They fucking better.
I don't know. But I can tell you, our next book does have special editions because that's the version that I have, which is why I'm very glad that between when we have to read it and now, a paperback will be out because I'm not annotating my very pretty sprayed edge hardcover.
Yeah, no, I'm waiting. I have to annotate this. I think I'm going to tandem read the next one too.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying that.
I read the audiobook for that one. Hang on. Who was that one? Because it was phenomenal. Brain to my Libra weapon.
Because I've been tandem reading a lot since I did this. Like, it's my favorite thing now.
For me, it's a combination of it adds a whole other layer to the experience, but also just on the very selfish note, it makes it easier to read books because like if I have to put down the physical book because I got to drive somewhere or I have to run errands or I have to clean the house or whatever, I can keep reading. So it's like Emily Wu Zeller is the narrator for The Crimson Crown. She does a fantastic job.
This was an experience, and while reading the book was very healing for me and made me feel seen, talking about it and taking that quiz has been a sort of therapy for me. So love you guys. I hope y'all have enjoyed this insight to Katie's brain.
Yep, and we're going to introduce the next book now.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed the book club episode, and we hope you'll join us next quarter when we read The Crimson Crown by Heather Walter. Don't forget to like, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you can be notified every time we publish a new episode. Follow us at OBDYK_pod on Instagram and Blue Sky. And if you'd like to join our Patreon, you can find the link with more details in our show notes.
This has been an episode of Okay, But Did You Know? A TV and media podcast. It was hosted by Katie and Lauren and edited by Katie.